Well, James Robison here, wishing you the greatest possible Thanksgiving. And I don't know what you're facing right now. We are blessed to have an immediate family with over 50 members in it. We've actually got 22 great grandchildren and about to have another one before the end of the year. And we have 11 grandchildren married, and most of them have had children. They've given us, 22 greats, and all of them are great. We said our grandchildren are great too. We don't have anything but great grandchildren, but for a fatherless boy, and that's what I was, and we're told today the biggest problem in the world are missing men, or men that are dysfunctional and not being good husbands, good fathers, good family leaders, good examples. And that breaks my heart. But I know what that is because I lived that way. The only way you can explain the fact that I came out of that was I met the Father. And the Father became my father, and I became a part of his family. And now at age 82, I was 82 last month. I bet he doesn't always like me to say that because she looks about 35 or 40 to most everybody. She's so beautiful. But she made 82 in November. So here we are, and we both find it amazing that we're still alive with the full and busy life that we've had, and I've traveled all over the world. We marched into hell for a heavenly cause to start rescuing the least of these and the overlooked. And we were so blessed when we found a need that must be met, and our viewers on television saw it. They said, we'll meet that need. And because of that, we've been able to put God's arms around the most overlooked people on the planet and save their lives by literally over hundreds of millions have come to Christ, but that many have been saved from death to starvation or contaminated water or other problems they're having. And it's all because many of you who watch Life Today and see us on television or the stream, you are moved by God to express his love, and only his family can put his arms around a broken, devastated, defeated world groping in darkness. And we're going to live our lives to do that. And let me just say, I've been meeting with our different families. We've got families now that some of them have moved to Tennessee from Texas, others are Colorado. But anyway, all of them have spouses, the grandchildren, and they will have Thanksgiving at the spouse's home. So they're just moving everywhere. We've already had one session of great Thanksgiving, with our daughter's family. And now then we're going to have the day after Thanksgiving with our son's family. But it's just so wonderful to be with family. And when you think about me not having a father, not having a family, and not having direction, and I came to know God through faith in Jesus Christ, and I spend my life giving thanks for the transformation that he worked in my life and the call of God and the blessing of God on my life. And I want to just say to you, we have so much to thank God for. Now, here's the thing that I always want people to be aware of. While we're thanking God and praising God for family, for spouses, let's just stop and remember how many people who may be seniors now. And the people now that are 60 and over, we're not only the older group, but we're the largest group.
When you really sit down and think about James Robison's story, really sit with it, it hits different. This man's life didn't start with any kind of fanfare or advantage or blessing that you could see with the naked eye. It started with unimaginable pain. The kind of pain that honestly, most people never recover from. But God had a different plan. And that plan would eventually touch over 1 billion lives around the world. Let me take you back to the beginning. His mother was working as a home health nurse in 1943, caring for an elderly man when she was raped by his alcoholic son. She conceived a child she never planned for, and in her desperation, she sought an abortion. But a doctor, a courageous, compassionate doctor, refused to go through with it. Think about that for a second. One doctor's decision, one act of moral courage in a moment that nobody would have known about either way. And because of it, on October 9th, 1943, James came into this world in the charity ward of a Houston hospital. He didn't come into a warm home. He didn't come into stability. His mother, feeling she couldn't properly provide for him, placed a newspaper ad for a Christian couple to take care of him. Reverend and Mrs. H.D. Hale answered that ad, and they raised James for the first several years of his life. Now pause there. Can you imagine a pastor and his wife see a newspaper ad and say, yes, we'll take this child. No backstory, no guarantees, just love and obedience. That couple had no idea they were answering the door to one of the most consequential Christian ministries of the 20th century. Then unexpectedly, when James was just 5 years old, his mother came back to get him. They moved to Austin, and for the next 10 years, they lived in extreme poverty. And if poverty wasn't enough, his biological father eventually entered their lives. Alcoholic, ill-tempered, and dangerous. Things escalated to the point where, as a teenager, James nearly shot his father in self-defense. That's not a metaphor. That's not exaggeration for dramatic effect. That's where this boy was. At the edge of violence, growing up in chaos, with no roadmap and no reason to believe his life would amount to anything good. But here is where the story turns. And it always turns for those God has set apart. When James returned to Pasadena to visit the Hales, Mrs. Hale led the teenage boy to the Lord during a revival service. That was the moment. Everything hinged on that revival service. A shy, wounded, angry teenager walked in carrying the weight of a life that had already dealt him more than most adults could bear, and he walked out changed. Completely, permanently, irreversibly changed. He was able to live with the Hales for his last 2 years of high school, and two significant things happened during that time. First, he felt called by God to be an evangelist and began to preach as a teenager. Second, he met a young woman named Betty Freeman. Betty Freeman, the quiet, steady, faithful woman who would stand beside him for over 60 years of ministry. They married on February 23rd, 1963, when both were just 19 years old. And what God joined together, no storm could break apart. And there would be storms. James attended East Texas Baptist College and went on to found the James Robison Evangelistic Association in 1967. But before that, it was Billy Graham himself who encouraged James and helped give the association its early direction. When Billy Graham puts his hand on your shoulder and says, go, you go. And James went. He went hard. And he went far. Through crusades, youth meetings, and television, God kept opening doors, and James kept walking through them with one question on his lips. What do you want me to do today, Lord? The Crusades became legendary. He carried the word to 25,000 people at a Mobile, Alabama crusade, to 300,000 on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and even found himself in rooms with political leaders like Ronald Reagan. Over the course of 6 decades, James preached in over 600 citywide evangelistic crusades, attended by more than 20 million people. 20 million people. Stop and let that number settle. That's not a statistic. Those are souls, real people who heard the gospel because one wounded boy in Texas said yes to God. His television ministry was just as staggering. His public run on television began in 1968, and it never really stopped. In 1995, he and Betty launched Life Today, a daily television program that aired on Trinity Broadcasting Network and other networks around the world. The reach of that program is almost incomprehensible. His website reported that the show reached an audience of over 1 billion people worldwide. 1 billion. From a charity ward in Houston to an audience of 1 billion. Only God writes a story like that. But James Robison was never just a preacher behind the camera. The man had feet. He went places. He saw suffering, and he didn't look away. In 1989, he and Betty traveled to Mozambique and met missionaries Peter and Ann Pretorius. They witnessed the horrific effects of hunger firsthand, and James responded with a pledge to feed 5,000 children a day. That pledge became Mission Feeding, which now feeds 350,000 children every single day and has saved the lives of more than 24 million children. 24 million children. The boy who grew up in extreme poverty looked into the faces of starving children on another continent and said, "Not on my watch." That's the kind of faith that has legs. Life Outreach International went on to conduct mission outreaches in more than 40 countries worldwide, covering everything from clean water wells to medical missions to feeding programs. James authored numerous books along the way, including the New York Times bestseller Indivisible, co-written with J.W. Richards, as well as Living Amazed, The Absolutes, Living in Love, and God of All Creation, co-written with his son, Randy Robison. And speaking of Randy, that's the name you want to hold in prayer right now. Because Randy has watched his father build something extraordinary, and now that mantle is passing to his hands. It's one thing to observe greatness. It's another thing entirely to carry it forward. But if there's any comfort to be found, it's this. Randy didn't just inherit a ministry, he inherited a model of faithfulness. He watched a man who started with nothing, less than nothing, and chose every single day to trust God with whatever came next. That's not a curriculum you can learn in a classroom. That's a life lived out loud right in front of you. Now, as for his passing, Life Outreach International announced his death on Sunday, May 17th, 2026. The exact cause of death had not been disclosed at the time of the announcement. What they did share was simple, brief, and perfect. James devoted his life to sharing the gospel and bringing hope, help, and healing to those in need around the world. Together, James and Betty stewarded a ministry that has touched countless lives and will continue impacting generations to come. And then they closed with Matthew 25:21. Well done, good and faithful servant. That's the only eulogy that really matters, isn't it? Not the crusades, not the television program, not the books, not even the 24 million children. All of that was just a fruit. The root was a man who, despite every reason to be bitter, chose to be broken before God instead. A man who came into this world through violence and rejection and turned around and spent 8 decades offering the world love and hope and the gospel of Jesus Christ. He was 82 years old. He had preached for more than 60 of those years. He had seen the worst of humanity and responded with the best of God. And now he is home, really home, in a way that even the most beautiful moments of his ministry could only point toward from a distance. So yes, pray for Betty, pray for Randy, pray for the entire Robison family and the Life Outreach Ministry family around the world. They are not just mourning a man, they are carrying a legacy. And what a legacy it is. Faithful to the end. Well done, James. Well done.